Dawn crept over Riverdale in soft shades of amber and gray, but one shadow moved faster than the sun. Duke, the Harper family's German shepherd, tore across town, with single-minded purpose claws, scratching asphalt breath, fogging in the chill morning air. His destination never changed, Pinerest Cemetery. There, beneath the weeping branches of a gnarled willow, lay a marble angel, marking a grave, Olivia Harper, age 8. Or so the town believed. Each morning, Duke hurled himself at the soft earth, digging not with confusion, but with purpose. His paws, worn and caked in clay, seemed guided by instinct, stronger than command. What began as one dog's grief soon became something else entirely. Within weeks, 9 more dogs joined him, mutts and purebreds pets from across Riverdale, all converging at sunrise to claw the earth with eerie unity. Cemetery caretaker Frank Johnson stood helpless beside Sheriff Tom Mitchell, wringing his weathered hands. "This ain't right," he muttered. "They're not just digging. They're drawn to it. Possessed, even." Sheriff Mitchell, 55, and tired beyond his years, watched in silence. The dogs' movements weren't random. They scratched in precise spots again and again, returning each day like pilgrims to a sacred site. Sam Harper. Olivia's father fell to his knees at the edge of the grave, his face streaked with tears and soil. He grabbed Duke's collar, begging, "Please, boy, please stop." The dog whined, amber eyes glinting with pain, and slipped free. He resumed digging as if truth itself were buried just beneath his paws. Mitchell sighed and removed his hat. "Sam," he said softly, the words like stones in his mouth. "Maybe it's time we stop asking what's wrong with the dogs and start asking what they're trying to tell us." Across town, Riverdale clung to its sleepy rituals. But beneath those rituals pulsed the question none dared voice aloud. If Olivia Harper had truly drowned, why wouldn't the dogs let her rest? 6 months earlier, Riverdale had gathered in joy along the banks of Willow Creek Lake. Red-checkered tablecloths, the sizzle of burgers, the scent of apple pie. The annual community picnic unfolded like a Norman Rockwell painting brought to life. Olivia, in her bright yellow swimsuit, darted between friends with the boundless energy of summer. Duke lay beneath a tree, tethered but alert, his gaze never straying far from the little girl. Sam Harper manned the grill, flipping burgers with precision drilled into him during his army days. Catherine, his wife, handed out paper plates, shielding her eyes to search for Olivia among the children splashing by the lake. "She was just here," she would later whisper, voice hollow. "I gave her a grape popsicle." Her lips were purple. At 2:17 p.m., a voice rang out. "There's a kid in trouble past the ropes." James Cooper, a recent arrival to Riverdale, stood on the dock, pointing frantically. Lifeguards blew whistles. Men dove into the water. In the chaos, no one noticed Duke's transformation. The German shepherd barked violently, gouging the tree bark as he strained against his leash. When it snapped, he didn't run toward the commotion. He bolted toward the far end of the lake, the abandoned boathouse, a direction no one else even looked. That night, the lake was dragged. Divers searched every crevice. No body was found. "Sometimes the current takes them," said Dr. Thompson, reassuring neighbors with professional calm. "The lake feeds into the river. It's not unusual." But something gnawed at the town's quiet. The funeral held days later was a ritual without a body, an empty casket filled with Olivia's favorite books and stuffed animals. Catherine placed a handmade bracelet on the satin lining. Duke had to be sedated after he tried to block the casket from being lowered into the ground. His howl, long, guttural, and heartbreakingly human, echoed through the cemetery after the mourners had gone. Riverdale moved on, or pretended to. But Duke didn't forget. Neither did Sam, and neither, it seemed, did the other dogs. The Harper home, once filled with music and messy laughter, sank into silence. Catherine returned to teaching too soon, not because she was ready, but because the walls of Olivia's empty bedroom whispered too loudly. Sam stopped going to work altogether. The construction site, with its ordered chaos, felt meaningless. He spent his days in Olivia's room or walking Duke by the lake, scanning the rippling water as if her small form might suddenly surface. Duke changed too. The playful, loyal dog turned listless. He stopped eating, refused toys, would lie for hours unmoving on Olivia's bed, nose pressed into the pillow as if scent alone could conjure her back. Dogs grieve too, the vet said, gently prescribing antidepressants hidden in bits of cheese. But time only deepened Duke's sorrow. Then, 3 months after the funeral, Duke disappeared before dawn. Catherine's voice cracked as she woke Sam. He's gone. The back doors open. They found him at the cemetery, paw's raw chest, heaving, digging with a desperation that bordered on feral. Sam tried to drag him away. The dog fought back, whimpering, refusing to leave the soil that marked Olivia's name. The next morning, it happened again, and again. Sam began locking Duke in the garage at night. The dog chewed through drywall, broke windows, escaped, always returning to dig, always at Olivia's grave. And then the impossible other dogs began joining him. First, the Fletcher's Labrador, then the Anderson's Border Collie. Within 2 weeks, 10 dogs of different breeds, sizes, and temperaments gathered each morning at dawn, united in one task: to tear at the grave of a girl whose body had never been found. "It ain't natural," muttered Frank Johnson, the caretaker, pointing at the daily damage. "I patch the holes every afternoon. By morning, they're back." "It's not just Duke anymore," Sheriff Mitchell said, watching the dogs work in eerie unison. "Something's drawing them." The town divided like cracked earth under pressure. Some whispered of spirits, omens, signs. Others blamed buried animals or spoiled food. Dr. Thompson, the town's physician, proposed something darker. "Euthanize Duke. He's unstable," he said at the town meeting. "He's influencing the others. The Harpers need to move on." Sam stood, eyes burning. That dog loved Olivia more than anyone. He's not crazy, and he's not going anywhere. The tension thickened, coiling around Riverdale like smoke from a fire no one could find. Local newspapers ran headlines about the graveyard dogs. Out-of-towners drove by the cemetery just to see. Margaret Wilson, the elderly neighbor who never missed a detail from her window, was one of the few to speak plainly. "Those dogs know something," she told Sheriff Mitchell. "Animals feel what people ignore." It was Mitchell, weary, loyal, and no longer convinced by simple explanations, who made the call. Despite objections from town council and a red-faced Dr. Thompson, he filed the necessary paperwork. Permission to exhume the casket was granted. The morning of the exhumation was cold and gray. Yellow police tape flapped in the breeze around Olivia's grave. Townsfolk gathered at a respectful distance, friends, neighbors, and those drawn by morbid curiosity. Sam and Catherine stood side by side, hands tightly clasped. Duke sat between them, eerily calm, for the first time in months. His eyes fixed on the marble headstone, as if waiting for something he already knew. "You don't have to watch this," Mitchell said softly. "We're not leaving," Sam answered. 2 men worked with shovels, no machines, no noise beyond breath and wind, until the casket emerged from the soil. Its once pristine white was now stained with earth, the golden handles tarnished. The county coroner approached with clipboard in hand. "Mr. and Mrs. Harper, I need your permission to open the casket." "Just open it," Sam said, signing with a trembling hand. As the latches clicked open, Duke let out a low, rising whine. He surged forward on his leash, but Sam held firm. The coroner lifted the lid and stepped back, stunned. "It's empty," he announced. Completely empty. Not just of a body. There were no toys, no books, no bracelet. Nothing. Every item lovingly placed during the funeral was gone. "That's impossible," Catherine whispered. "We put her things in there. I remember." Sheriff Mitchell leaned over, his face pale. "There's nothing here, Catherine. Not even a scrap of fabric." Sam released Duke's collar. The German shepherd didn't leap into the casket. He circled it once, sniffed, and then sat on his haunches, lifted his head to the sky, and howled. A sound so hollow, so human, it broke something in the air. Something final. "This isn't a drowning anymore," Sheriff Mitchell said quietly. "This is a missing persons case now." The empty casket fractured the town's quiet denial. That evening, Riverdale's town hall overflowed. Pastor Stevens called it a miracle God took her whole. Others speculated about grave robbers accusing Sam of reopening wounds. But it was Margaret Wilson who stood trembling, but fierce. Why did the digging start 3 months after the funeral? And why only her grave? The room fell silent. That night, Duke broke into Olivia's room through a bathroom window. Catherine found him in the backyard, carefully burying 5 bristles from her old hairbrush, 1 in each corner of the property. It was deliberate, she told Mitchell. He wasn't playing. Mitchell revealed what he'd kept. Quiet hair strands were found in the casket lining, too few to match a body. The official alert for a missing child went out across the state. Detective Lisa Reynolds arrived the next morning. Sharp-eyed, crisp-suited, and emotionally detached, she reviewed the case with fresh eyes. No body. 1 witness, who's now vanished, and a death certificate signed without remains. She shook her head. This case should never have been closed. Meanwhile, Duke continued his rituals. Sam, watching him with new clarity, followed the dog's buried clues. Under the 3rd location, nestled in tree roots, Sam found a gas station receipt from 50 miles away, dated the day Olivia disappeared. The name on the card, James Cooper. At the Harper kitchen table, now transformed into a makeshift war room, maps, coffee mugs, and crime scene photos scattered like puzzle pieces. Reynolds pointed at the timeline. Cooper reported Olivia drowning at 2:17. By 5:20, he was in Heartland, 50 miles away. Tight, but possible. What's troubling is that he left town 2 weeks after the funeral. Sheriff Mitchell entered quietly, hat in hand. County records came back. The Social Security number Cooper used belongs to someone who died in 1998. Sam's jaw tightened. "He's running," he said. "That receipt proves it." And still, Duke moved, pacing the house, sniffing for a trail. When he barked sharply at the back gate, Sam followed. So did Reynolds. The dog led them not toward the lake, but toward the woods beyond it, weaving past old trees and overgrown paths to a crumbling cabin none of them knew existed. Duke scratched at the door, then turned back, eyes fierce. He'd found something. Again. The cabin was a forgotten relic. Moldy wood, rusted hinges, and the faint stench of cigarettes clinging to still air. Duke lunged inside the moment the door creaked open, heading straight for the threadbare rug in the center of the floor. "Duke, heel," Sam called. But the German shepherd didn't listen. Not this time. With frenzied urgency, Duke pawed the rug aside, revealing loose floorboards beneath. Reynolds knelt, her hand instinctively drifting to her sidearm. "Stay back," she warned, prying open the boards with the edge of her pen. From the cavity, she lifted a small plastic bag, inside a handmade bracelet of beads and butterflies. Catherine's bracelet, the one she'd buried in the casket. Back at the Harper home, Catherine held the evidence bag like a fragile flame. "I put this in the casket," she whispered. "With my own hands. Someone took it," Mitchell said grimly. "The same someone who emptied the casket. Probably the same someone who took Olivia." That night, crime scene photos revealed more wrappers dated just last month, multiple cigarette brands. Tally marks scratched into the cabin wall, 31 in total. She could count, Catherine said softly. 5 times 6 plus 1, 31 days. She was leaving us a message. Duke hadn't stopped. That same night, he dug up another clue, Olivia's school photo buried beneath a pine tree near the lake. Margaret Wilson, scouring gas station footage on her old laptop, spotted a van with Ohio plates parked behind her church on the day Olivia vanished. It was on our street the week before the picnic, she told Mitchell. I thought it was Mrs. Daniels' nephew. Guess I was wrong. The van belonged to a defunct cleaning company. Its trail led north toward the Canadian border. The case was no longer local. Reynolds coordinated with the FBI. Files were opened, photos distributed. A trafficking pattern emerged. Children vanished near water always, with a witness always, with no body recovered. The town grieved again, but now they acted. And through it all, Duke led the way, no longer digging, no longer frantic. Now, he searched with quiet purpose. From the school Olivia once attended to the ice cream shop she loved, he moved as if building a map no human could read. He wasn't looking for her body. He was following her trail. The further they searched, the clearer the pattern became, a network methodical and chilling. Duke remained relentless, his nose to the ground pacing circles of memory. When he returned to the corner of Olivia's room, where her hairbrush had once rested, he sat stiffly alert. He's waiting, Catherine whispered. Checking. Then Duke changed direction. One morning he bolted toward the old water treatment plant, a place long forgotten. Sam followed, breathless, heart-hammering, as the dog paused at a collapsed section of fence and slipped through. Sam pushed in behind him, crunching through brush until they reached a small, half-buried outbuilding. Duke scratched violently at the locked door. Inside, beneath decades of dust and rusted pipes, they found it boxes, dozens each, labeled with locations and dates. Sam's hands trembled as he lifted the lid of the nearest. Children's clothing, toys, school IDs, and at the bottom, Olivia's butterfly hair clip. Duke whined, turning toward another box stacked high. Then came the voices. Car doors slammed. Footsteps. Men outside. Check the main building first, one ordered. We need to clear everything before noon. Sam froze. Unarmed, alone. Duke crouched beside him, eyes blazing. A man entered the storage room muttering about the broken lock and never saw what hit him. Duke launched like a storm. Sam, pipe in hand, brought it down hard. The man crumpled. They dragged him inside. Sam whispered, "Guard," and Duke stood watch, growling, low teeth bared. Then came the second man. Sam hid behind the door, pipe raised. As the man entered, Carl, what the Duke lunged. Sam struck. But this one was armed. The gun flashed, then clattered away, as Duke bit down hard on the man's wrist, driving him backward through the door. They fought in the open teeth and fists and fear. A boot connected with Duke's ribs, knocking him aside. The man reached again for the weapon, and then a crack. A rifle shot. The stranger fell. Sam turned stunned and saw her Margaret Wilson 20 yards away, antique hunting rifle steady in her wrinkled arms. "I saw you chasing Duke," she said calmly. "Figured you might need backup." Inside, the first man stirred, clutching a radio. "Backup's already coming," he hissed. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Sam tied his hands with a belt. "Maybe not," he said. "But we're about to find out." The chaos swelled quickly. 10 minutes later, sirens, still silent state police tactical units swept in from the trees. Sheriff Mitchell and 2 FBI agents followed close behind. Officers secured the perimeter, just as a white van, matching the one from Margaret's footage, rounded the bend and screeched to a halt. "We've got runners," an officer radioed. "Northbound Utility Road." Reynolds didn't flinch. "Let them go. Roadblocks are in place." We've got everything we need right here. The storage room was a trove not just of children's belongings, but of proof. Each box a chilling catalog, each tag a receipt for a stolen life. FBI agents flipped through ledgers and photographs. Mitchell stood silently over the evidence, jaw clenched. "This is a trophy vault," one agent said. "Standard in high-end trafficking rings. Each item is authenticated to match a specific child for buyers." Sam's voice cracked. "Buyers." The agent nodded. "They collect details, age, appearance, even scent traces. It proves the child is who they claim." Catherine arrived minutes later. A trooper escorted her gently through the debris. She moved like a ghost until she saw the watch. Olivia's waterproof digital watch, the one Sam had given her for Christmas. "She was wearing this when she disappeared," she said, cradling it in her palm. She told everyone it could survive 50 meters. Tears welled in her eyes. Why keep these things? Why not just... She trailed off. "Because she might still be alive," Reynolds said softly. "If she were gone, they wouldn't need this." Duke sniffed every item, every box. He paused at a locked filing cabinet, then scratched insistently at the bottom drawer. A pry bar revealed folders, state by state. Sam flipped through them until he found one labeled Harper O. Michigan. Inside photographs. Olivia on a playground. Olivia walking Duke. And then Olivia after. Thinner. Hair cropped short. Eyes dimmer. The most recent photo was dated just 2 weeks earlier. "She's alive," Sam whispered, the file trembling in his hands. Catherine collapsed into a chair, sobbing. The FBI scanned the farmhouse in the photo, white siding, green shutters. Somewhere Midwest, the agent estimated. Then Duke barked sharply, pawing at a folder that had fallen. Inside, transport logs, routes, schedules. One date highlighted October 15th. Transfer complete. Cumberland property. "That's today," Reynolds gasped. "And it's already 9:17. Sam picked up Olivia's watch. It read 12:17. "No," he whispered. "It's not the wrong time. It's a countdown." The room shifted from discovery to deployment. Agents shouted coordinates into radios. Reynolds paced, eyes locked on the schedule, her fingers tightening around the highlighted words. Cumberland property, 12:17 p.m. "We've got 3 hours, she said. "Find that location." Satellite imagery pulled up 3 white farmhouses with green shutters within a 200-mile radius. One in northern Ohio was registered to a shell company already linked to the trafficking network. "That's our site," the lead FBI agent confirmed. ETA 90 minutes. We go in silent. Sam stood by the mobile command vehicle, Duke pressed against his leg. "I'm coming." Reynolds turned sharply. "Absolutely not. This is federal now. I've followed Duke this far. You need him and you'll need me." His voice didn't waver. A pause. Then, "You stay behind cover. Understand?" The caravan rolled out, black SUVs slicing through cornfields and rural backroads. Duke sat alert in the back seat, his eyes fixed forward, as if he already knew where they were going. Inside the lead vehicle, Reynolds examined the transport logs Sam had pulled. "They move children every 3 to 4 months, she murmured. "Always rural. Always 2 or 3 handlers. Small footprint. Less risk." Beside her, the FBI agent added, "They don't just traffic. They erase. No records, no trails, no memory, except what they keep in those boxes. It's systematic disappearance." Back at the scene, Duke had retrieved Olivia's watch again. Sam noticed something, no scratch on the clasp. "This isn't her watch," he said aloud. "It looks the same, but Olivia's had a nick from her bike. And the time it's counting down." Reynolds nodded slowly. "That's not a keepsake. It's a tracker or a timer. We may have caught them just before the next transfer." Duke paced again, tail rigid, ears high. He returned to the filing cabinet and nosed another folder. Inside maps and lists of vehicle routes, including past stops, that matched the timeline of children's disappearances from 5 states. The routes always ended near water, always began with a stranger moving into a small town. We're not just stopping this for Olivia, Sam realized. We're stopping this for all of them. Reynolds glanced at the countdown, 2 hours left. Then let's move. The convoy wove through backcountry roads, sirens, silenced engines tense with urgency. Sam watched the landscape blur every minute on the dashboard, a drumbeat of hope and dread. Duke sat upright in the rear seat, ears twitching at every new sound. He wasn't anxious. He was waiting. At headquarters, analysts cross-referenced property deeds, traffic patterns, and burner phone records. The farmhouse in northern Ohio, white exterior, green shutters, and an old barn on a private road, matched every known pattern. It was a ghost property paid for in cash by a shell corporation tied to other missing children cases. We're going in, the lead agent announced. Perimeter first. Quiet entry. But even before they arrived, Duke was already alerting low growls, eyes locked on the tree line. As they neared the property, he barked sharply. Then again. Sam's heart clenched. He knows, he whispered. She's here. Teams fanned out through the surrounding woods. Tactical units crept into position behind barns and outbuildings, each officer marked with a green band to avoid crossfire. In the main house, movement was visible behind the curtain, shadows, quick and panicked. Through binoculars, Reynolds spotted 2 men moving crates. They're prepping the van, she said. They're accelerating the timeline. 3 minutes, someone whispered. We breach at 12:14. Sam knelt beside Duke behind the rearmost vehicle, pressing a hand into the dog's fur. This is it, boy. You brought us here. Don't stop now. At 12:14 sharp, the order was given. Agents stormed the house. Screams, shouts, the thud of boots on floorboards. Sam stayed at the perimeter until the front door burst open and one of the handlers bolted toward the woods, but Duke was faster. He closed the distance in seconds, leaping jaws clamping down with practiced precision. The man hit the ground hard, pinned beneath 90 pounds of fury and purpose. Officers surged in to restrain him. Inside, Reynolds cleared the basement steps 2 at a time. The room was dark, damp, filled with crates and blankets, and in the far corner behind a false panel, a small figure trembled. Olivia, Reynolds asked gently. The girl turned. Her eyes were sunken hair, cropped short but unmistakable. You're safe now, Reynolds whispered, arms outstretched. You're going home. Outside, as Olivia was carried into the sunlight, Duke barked once, not in alarm, but in recognition. She looked up and smiled. The farmhouse buzzed with motion agents, securing evidence, children being counted, medical personnel rushing toward the basement steps. But to Sam, the world narrowed to one point, the small bundle of movement stepping into the daylight, hand in hand with Reynolds. His breath hitched. She was thinner, paler, her hair crudely chopped, but those eyes wide and luminous, scanning the faces, until they found one that didn't need a name. Daddy? The word cracked something open in him. Sam ran forward, knees buckling as he dropped into the grass. Olivia collided with his arms, and for the first time in 6 months, Sam breathed. Catherine was already sprinting across the field. She collapsed beside them, sobbing, arms wrapping around both as Duke stood behind them, tail, still eyes, watchful. Then Olivia reached out, burying her fingers in the dog's thick coat. You found me, she whispered. Duke nuzzled her hand, releasing a low, satisfied whine, the sound of something finally ending. Reynolds gave them space. But as she turned, her expression hardened. The raid had uncovered more than anyone expected. 2 more children hidden in another outbuilding, crates of forged documents, burner phones, even an underground cell linked to similar rings, across 3 states. This wasn't an accident, she told Mitchell. This was an enterprise. He nodded grimly. And Duke was our best detective. In the hours that followed, the compound became a scene of controlled chaos. Olivia was checked by paramedics, dehydrated but strong. She clung to Catherine's hand, answering questions with quiet nods and glances at Duke. "He was in my dreams," she said once, "every night. I knew he was looking." By dusk, news had spread. Riverdale's streets lit up with porch lamps and candle vigils. Margaret Wilson, now hailed as a local hero, quietly declined interviews. "I just followed the dog," she told reporters. "He knew long before we did." But it wasn't just Duke's nose that saved Olivia. It was something deeper, a thread between hearts unbroken by silence or time. That night, back at home, Olivia curled up in her own bed. Duke lay beside her head, resting on her leg, his body still. As Sam turned off the light, he heard it, Olivia's whispered voice. "I missed you, boy." Duke's tail thumped once against the floor. Riverdale changed. Not overnight, but visibly like trees after a long winter, unsure whether to bloom or stay bare. The cemetery filled with flowers again, though not for mourning. People came to stand in quiet reflection before the marble angel, not for what had been lost, but for what had been found. Olivia never returned to school immediately. Some wounds needed gentler healing. But her room, once sealed in silence, came alive again with bedtime stories, drawings taped to walls, and the soft rhythm of Duke's tail brushing the floor. The German shepherd never left her side. At night, he curled against her legs like he had when she was a toddler, afraid of thunderstorms. Only now, he was no longer protecting her from imaginary monsters. He had faced the real ones. The FBI dismantled the trafficking ring piece by piece. Dozens of children were identified through the boxes and files found at the storage site. Families long grieving were contacted. For many, Olivia's rescue was the thread that unraveled a far wider net. At the final town meeting that fall, the mayor's eyes-wet voice, shaking, called Duke to the stage. He wore no medal, only his weathered collar, but the applause shook the rafters. Olivia sat beside him, hand resting on his back. Her smile, soft and quiet, never left her face. "They say dogs live in the present," Catherine told a reporter afterward. "But I don't think that's true." Duke remembered. He held on to hope when we couldn't. And Sam, who once sat for hours, staring at an empty bedroom, now spent his mornings walking. Duke through maple-lined streets, nodding to neighbors, always stopping by the lake. Duke still sniffed the air there, but not with grief. Only memory. One evening, Olivia stood on the porch watching the sky bloom gold above the trees. "Do you think Duke knew the whole time?" she asked. Sam knelt beside her hand, brushing her hair. "I think he never stopped believing you were out there." Olivia turned to Duke, who stared back with soft, steady eyes. She whispered, "Thank you for remembering me." Duke leaned forward and gently pressed his forehead to hers. And in that quiet gesture, under the turning leaves of October, the last piece of the story fell into place, not with a bang, but with the silence of a bond that had never broken.